This segment of Naperville Sports Weekly is brought to you in part by the Daily Herald.
Neuqua Valley softball coach Melissa Wilson. No softball activities this weekend because of prom and some other things, but earlier this week the schedule makers kind of made it so all the Valley schools see each other in a little compact situation. And you guys made a little event out of it with the Strikeout for Cancer. Tell us a little bit about that.
It was a wonderful event. Allie Kelly at Waubonsie Valley actually came up with the idea and thought that since we were all playing each other the same week, day after day, that we would do this event to, donate, get the girls involved in just doing something other than just playing, to play, but playing for, something bigger than us. And, it was a really great event because obviously, it's always great games against our rivalry schools and sister schools, and it was fun just to see the girls. They all know each other. They all were excited to see one another, and all the different color jerseys and just everyone fighting for their own cause. It was definitely, I was very proud to be part of this district and just part of the event.
So how do you guys go about kind of executing something like that? One coach has an idea, but there's so much more that kind of needed to be done, I imagine, with the T-shirts and all the other things. How did the logistics of it kind of come together?
Sure. Like I said, it was Allie's idea. We had done a Strikeout Cancer event here a few years ago. Elena Tanaka was the head coach at that point in time, and we had a huge event here with Downers Grove South. So in helping organize that event, I had a little bit of background information about it. I know that Allie ended up, she was kind of in charge of getting the T-shirt guy and, getting the design. And then from there, I think that Chris and myself, gave just some ideas and some feedback on different ideas that Allie had. And then from there, each school ended up, really being responsible for our major fundraiser for each organization, which was T-shirt sales. And we from there had each of our girls, we asked them to sell at least 5 T-shirts for $10, and then from there we paid for the shirt, and then whatever was extra was actually going to be donated to the organization. So each school was responsible for that, but at the same time it was just the biggest thing that helps with that kind of event is communication between the coaches. And Allie did a really nice job of keeping everyone in the loop and taking suggestions, and then from there it was fantastic.
Definitely. Now, with your team on the field, the thing that we've seen you guys a handful of times this year, and it seems like offense really a big part of it. You guys are putting up a lot of double-digit run totals, and the person at the top, Kat Widdop, seems to be really the starter. It seems whatever box score I see, she's getting a multi-hit game, she's scoring runs. How big is she as kind of the catalyst for this offense at the top?
Fantastic. Yeah, she's wonderful. Kat is a 4-year varsity player, and I think that just speaks multitudes of her because she has that experience. She knows that each game, really in the conference that we're in the sectional that we're in, just in our league, the team that hits is always going to win. It's not a pitcher's game anymore. It's definitely a hitter's game, and Kat knows that. Kat is very smart in the batter's box, and I think that really helps her out. She is definitely a multi-threat. She can bunt, she can slap, she can hit, and she's very fast and smart on the bases. So when she's on base, especially that leadoff position and gets on with no outs, I feel very confident that we can get her around the field. And like I said, she's just a huge leader on the team, and the girls really look up to her. And my biggest thing that I appreciate about her is that she's so passionate about the game, and it really does show. She works her butt off every time at bat in the field just to do the best that she can do.
What kind of mindset do you want your hitters to have when they get up to the plate to be able to kind of put up the numbers that you guys have this year?
Sure. Something that we've really focused a lot on is just being aggressive, taking advantage of strikes, especially early in the count. An advantage for myself as a coach is that I used to pitch. So having that pitcher's mentality, a pitcher's always going to come at you the first few pitches and try and get a strike. And I encourage, and I know some of our hitters, do sometimes wait till later on in the count, but, I encourage our hitters to jump on those first few strikes. Those are the best pitches to hit, and, when a pitcher gets rattled. So I think that, the biggest thing that we've worked on this year is being aggressive, being smart and knowing what your role is. Is my role to get down a bunt? Is my role to, move my runners that are in scoring position to just get the ball somewhere out there so that, someone can tag up, and just being more of a team player as opposed to being, individual statistic style player. And I think that our girls have done a really nice job with that.
And you talk about the offense, Jamie OBrien, somebody that hits in the 3-hole for you, that has really brought in plenty of runs so far this year, but also in the circle. I know she's, not a full-time pitcher, but she seems to really have brought it this year as a sophomore. What qualities does she kind of bring in the circle that, you know, as a former pitcher, you can see that she's been able to do so well this year.
Right. You know, Jamie, in my opinion, her biggest advantage is that she is just very talented all around the softball field. She's quick, pitching wise. She, you know, she pitches hard, but she moves the ball around. She can hit the ball really well, as you said. And you know, I've really been impressed with her on the mound. You know, she's definitely learning, I think, the mental part of the game right now. I think that's the hardest part. You know, being a pitcher can be the best feeling in the world, but it can also be the worst. And, you know, her on the mound, you know, I think the girls definitely feel confident behind her because they know that she's talented. They know that she wants to be in there. They know that she wants to be successful. And her raw talent, I think, really kind of exudes on the mound when she's in the batter's box, when she's playing a position, and then also when she's on the bases.
You talked about the UEC and kind of the strength of this conference,
Sure.
and the softball and offense really seems to be what has been the key here the past couple of years. You know, there's a group of teams in the middle that you guys are a part of that are kind of beating up on each other right now. You guys, you know, didn't have the best of weeks this week, but you've had some really good weeks so far this year. What is it about that group of teams in the conference that you guys are so even right now and just kind of playing right near each other?
Sure. You know, I think that each team knows that it is so close, and that, you know, any game that we go into, really, I mean, no amount of runs is ever going to be enough, because I think that, you know, between Lake Park and Wabanzi and Mattia and us, you know, we all want to win so badly, and we all have the talent to be very successful. So I think, you know, kind of going into those games, it's just you never really know what to expect, and, you know, we really have to be on our toes and bring our A game and our intensity every single game, you know, where I think, you know, back when I used to play, that wasn't the case. You know, there were a few powerhouse teams in the conference, you know, and I think that's what makes really our conference so exciting, is that, you know, everyone really has the ability to do well. And I think that I'm very interested to see what's going to happen over the next few weeks, because, again, each team that we've seen so far really is playing well right now. And I think that depending on the day and depending on the hitters and the pitcher, it can be anybody's ball game.
You played at Lake Park as a pitcher on a team that went downstate. You guys get the 8-1 win over the Lancers last week. What was that like for you, getting your first win against the program you used to play for?
Yeah, it was really exciting. You know, last year we struggled against Lake Park. We had 2 losses against them. You know, and of course, you know, Lake Park is a great program. So, you know, as I've said before, I like to be successful against any team, but anytime that you can beat a successful program, I think that speaks highly of your program. You know, and for me, it was definitely a little bit more personal. I definitely wanted to beat Lake Park just because I went there, and you know, like I said, I know what it means to beat a team like Lake Park. And you know, it was a fun game. You know, I love, you know, the coach over there, and just know the players just because we went to Ohio and got to know a lot of them, and it was just a great game, and it did feel good to definitely get a win this year.
Talked about, you know, the highlights for this team this year in the midst of an 8-game win streak that you guys were on for a couple weeks.
Sure. Was
that trip to Ohio, the Windy Spring Classic? What was that experience like for the girls?
It was fantastic. You know, I only heard positive feedback from all the players. It was just such a wonderful time for us to spend time together and get to see teams that really we knew nothing about. You know, sometimes we go into these games where, you know, the girls know players on the other team, and they kind of almost overanalyze what's going to happen. And, you know, we went in there, we didn't know what to expect. We had never been to the tournament. We didn't know who we were playing. You know, we knew the names, but we didn't know the ability. You know, and we luckily went in there, you know, on a positive, you know, winning note, which also helped. But, you know, I think that the time spent together on the bus, in the hotel rooms, just the fun, you know, dancing competitions that we had, and the eating together, it's a different element of, I think, camaraderie for a team that, you know, usually just don't get on the softball field. And, you know, we played so well out there. It was so fun to be a part of that. I think that the girls definitely had an experience that they will never forget.
What's that like for you as a coach, kind of going in with no scouting report? I imagine there's a game plan involved, but you don't know, you know, who likes inside pitches, you know, where to pitch someone, where in these games locally, I imagine you're pretty attuned to. What was that like, kind of approaching it a little bit differently? You know,
it was definitely, it was a little nerve-wracking, but at the same time it was a little, I don't know, I actually kind of enjoyed it. I liked that, you know, we had to go into each game knowing anything could happen. Definitely. We need to be ready for anything, and I kind of like that. I like saying that to our team. You know, for a coach, I think that any game can be nerve-wracking, but at the same time, sometimes when you're already thinking something about a team or have preconceived notions, sometimes you kind of overanalyze that to the point where it drives you crazy. Where really, when you go somewhere and you don't know a team, you just have to play good softball, and that's exactly what we did. So, like I said, I definitely think that it could have been scarier. We were successful, so I guess it ended up working well. But I must say that I actually kind of enjoyed that part of the tournament.
A couple of the games we've seen with you guys this year, a couple close calls, umpires, making some things that were, debatable from either side. Sure. Between the Naperville Central game, the Mattia Valley game earlier this week, both teams in your sectional. How do you kind of stay positive when something like that maybe turns something not in your favor late in the game, and kind of keep things positive when you approach your team after the game in such a short season?
That's probably one of the hardest parts of my job, especially, we've had some bad luck this year. We've had a few calls just haven't gone our way. The way that I've really tried to approach that is, unfortunately, we have no control over that. Mm-hmm. And that's what I say to the girls. We have to put ourselves in a position where something close like that cannot affect our game. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how I've tried to handle it, and I think that, the girls know that I'm very proud of them in those games. I always try to encourage them to practice good sportsmanship, and, sometimes in games like that, it is very hard to do that. But just to be positive, I just kind of say, what can we do next time to not put ourselves in this situation that could, that did lose us the game? Mm-hmm. And I think that they've kind of really learned from those situations, and, I think if anything, those experiences will hopefully help us in the postseason, because those games are going to be tough. We've been there. We've been on the bad end of it. We've experienced it, and I hope that those experiences will kind of push us to kind of end out on that positive note in those really big games.
Hard to believe we're already here, but postseason seedings, come out next week as we get ready for that portion of the season. What are a couple things you and your assistants are kind of stressing in practice as we get ready for that point?
Sure. We haven't had a lot of practices because of we've been playing almost every single day. So we're looking forward. We've got a few days next week where we will get a chance to work with the girls. Something that we stressed last year and that I'm going to continue to stress this year is just, again, aggressive hitting. I think that any team can be successful if their offensive strategy is working. Something else that I like to do, before postseason is just kind of get back to the basics. Strong defense, making smart decisions out on the field, good throws. Sometimes one throw can end a game in the worst way possible, and that happened for us yesterday. So for us, I know just kind of going into our next few practices, just kind of coming back to the basics. Here's why we're here. Here's what we need to do. Here's how we need to execute our plays, and from there, I think that when you play good fundamental softball and you have a team of talent like we do, it's very hard to beat us.
Well, Coach, I don't know if you have plans for the prom this weekend, but enjoy the weekend off. Thanks for having us out, and good luck down the home stretch.
Thank you very much.